We have another one coming up, birthright citizenship. It would be a disgrace if the Supreme Court of the United States allows that to happen. 20 to 25% of the people coming into our country will come in through birthright citizenship. They'll become citizens through birthright citizenship, and it'll cost us numbers that are, I don't even think they're doable. And I hope they do what's right. Birthright citizenship is a disgrace. The cost of birthright citizenship is barely not affordable by our country. It's going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's in their hands. What can I tell you? It's a common sense ruling. It's common sense. It was exact timing, and it's about the babies of slaves. Going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship. It's things like this that bring millions of people to our country, and they enter our country illegally.
If you're born in the United States of America, you're an American, right? That's how it's always been. I mean, it's in the Constitution. But Donald Trump doesn't care about the Constitution, and he's been very open for a while about how he plans to end this core constitutional principle, end birthright citizenship.
You have people on the border, and in one day they walk over, have a baby, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to pay the baby.
So we are looking at birthright citizenship very seriously. It's frankly ridiculous. On day one of my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship.
You heard that last part. Trump not only thinks he can take away a right explicitly outlined in the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which explicitly says, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. But Trump being Trump, he thinks he can get rid of it all by himself, not via constitutional amendment, not even via Congress, but via executive order. Yes, our next president is planning on instructing government agencies to deny social security numbers, passports, and public benefits to newborn babies in the US whose parents don't provide proof of their immigration status. But here's the thing. Birthright citizenship isn't just explicitly laid out in the Constitution, it's also been explicitly upheld by the Supreme Court. In fact, the relevant precedent here is over 100 years old. Yes, back in 1898, birthright citizenship took center stage at the Supreme Court after Wong Kim Ark, who was born to two Chinese immigrants in San Francisco, had his citizenship challenged by the xenophobic Chinese Exclusion Act, which at the time banned Chinese immigrants from becoming naturalized citizens. Nevertheless, in US versus Wong Kim Ark, the Supreme Court upheld his citizenship, despite him being born to non-citizens, writing that, quote, the 14th Amendment affirms the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the territory. Now, of course, the current conservative majority on the Supreme Court doesn't have a great track record when it comes to upholding precedent or constitutional rights for that matter. And with justices like Amy Coney Barrett, who once referred to the 14th Amendment as, quote, possibly illegitimate, it's not crazy to think that this court may well give Trump their stamp of approval on this issue, which, to be clear, would be a shocking and shameless disregard for the Constitution. And don't just take my word for it. Even James Ho, a conservative lawyer turned Trump-appointed judge, wrote in 2009 that, quote, text, history, judicial precedent, and executive branch interpretation confirmed that the citizenship clause reaches most US-born children of aliens, including illegal aliens. Now, as plain and obvious as the 14th Amendment is, when it comes to birthright citizenship, there are four words in the middle of that first sentence that Team Trump thinks supports their case against birthright citizenship. It's the bit where it says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens. Conservatives argue that part, subject to jurisdiction thereof, was written in order to deny citizenship to anyone who still has loyalty to a foreign power, which they say includes people whose parents have not entered the country legally. But this isn't the mic drop they think it is. When the 14th Amendment was being passed back in the 1860s, the senators debating it pretty much all agreed that it would apply to pretty much everyone, including the children of foreign citizens with loyalty to other countries, but excluding Native Americans on reservations. Congress agreed to adopt the interpretation of Senator Jacob M. Howard, the author of the Citizenship Clause, who clarified the jurisdiction language, saying that it meant birthright citizenship would not apply to, quote, persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers, but will include every other class of persons. When Senate Judiciary Chair Lyman Trumbull was asked if birthright citizenship applied to kids of Chinese immigrants, he said back then, undoubtedly. So conservatives say they're originalists, that the Constitution should be interpreted in accordance with the original historical era in which it was written. And the senators at that time were clear that birthright citizenship applied to the kids of all foreigners with the exception of foreign diplomats. Oh, and remember US versus Wong Kim Ark? That case also addressed this jurisdiction language head on, with Supreme Court Justice Horace Gray writing for the majority that the amendment's language, quote, was not intended to impose any new restrictions upon citizenship. Gray then confirmed that the language was only intended to exclude children born to Native Americans living on reservations, children of foreign diplomats, and, based on English common law, quote, children born of alien enemies in hostile occupation. So, okay, that jurisdiction language was also intended to exclude children of literal military invaders, which partly explains why Trump and the GOP have been so desperately and so falsely and so ridiculously trying to brand migrants at the southern border as invaders. Conservatives also like to point to the fact that in the Wong Kim Ark case, Ark's parents were immigrants living here legally, whereas Trump's executive order would only go after children whose parents are undocumented. But once again, judicial precedent is not on Trump's side. Take a look at Plyler versus Doe, 1982. The Supreme Court struck down a public school in Texas's attempt to deny admission to undocumented children, saying, and I quote, no plausible distinction with respect to 14th Amendment jurisdiction can be drawn between resident aliens whose entry into the United States was lawful and resident aliens whose entry was unlawful. In other words, even if you are undocumented, you are still within the jurisdiction of the US, and therefore birthright citizenship as laid out in the 14th Amendment still applies to your kids. And yet Donald Trump thinks that's a, quote, ridiculous idea.
Now, how ridiculous. We're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States for 85 years with all of those benefits.
For starters, that's not true. Over 30 countries, including Canada right next door to us, also have birthright citizenship. But even if we were the only country in the world that offered it, so what? Isn't American exceptionalism what this country is all about? Isn't that what's supposed to make America great?
The 14th Amendment actually states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States. The addition of the language and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is the key to understanding why birthright citizenship, as it is applied in modern times, is not justified by the 14th Amendment and is unconstitutional. There is evidence to this as well. When you look at the congressional record at the debate of the 14th Amendment, you see that the authors of the 14th Amendment, specifically Senator Howard from Michigan, establishes the understanding of the term and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. In this congressional record, it says, this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. By the intent of the drafters of the 14th Amendment, language means that you don't get to come on a visitor's visa, you're not a foreigner, on our soil, dropping a baby and calling it America. Under proper application of constitutional law principles, if you are confused about the term within the Constitution, you don't get to go to the courts and make it up. The first place you have to go is the intent of the drafters. The intent of the drafters is recorded in congressional record. Birthright citizenship is not an intention of the 14th Amendment. It is an invention of activist judges.
Welcome back to the Freedom Room, where we explore the stories, debates, and decisions shaping America today. In this video, we'll be examining birthright citizenship, what it means, why it has become a major political debate, and what could change in the future. For more than 150 years, the principle of birthright citizenship has meant that most people born on the US soil automatically becomes American citizens regardless of their parents, immigration status, and more. In recent years, this long-standing policy has faced renewed challenges and debates over immigration, national identity, border security, and the meaning of citizenship itself. Could the rules that have existed for generations change? What will happen to the children born in America if birthright citizenship were restricted? This is our thoughts for today. And how could such a change affect millions of families? Stay with us as we explore the immigration issue or important issues. First, let us watch some more clips together and we will return. We will discuss what is really at stake. Thank you. This is the Freedom Room. Please watch to the end and subscribe to the Freedom Room.
The Trump administration says that we're not talking about all children of immigrants. We're only saying birthright citizenship doesn't apply to children of people here illegally or temporarily. But how far back do you want to take that? Because at some point, every white person was here illegally. So Trump's case got shot down for now. But it's pretty clear that his people plan to make another run at this. And to sway public opinion, they're conjuring up some pretty wild scenarios.
The idea that you can have a cruise ship filled with foreigners and they just dock at a port for an hour and someone has a baby, Jesse, the baby's an American citizen.
What? Having a baby in an hour? Forget birthright citizenship. I don't think you understand how birth works. It's not a cruise excursion. You can't just pop into port and squeeze out a baby while getting cornrows. And their fear-mongering over birthright citizenship isn't just about taking white people's jobs or exposing them to food that has flavor. They're also claiming it's about national security.
So this is a huge national security threat, and birthright citizenship, it's not random, it's organized.
Chinese birth tourists come to America, have their kid in America, on American soil, have no allegiance to the United States.
They could populate Detroit, or they could populate a swing state and swing an election with just a few 100,000 votes.
Yeah. Swing this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're concerned about democracy, don't worry about 100,000 Chinese kids swinging an election in 20 years. Worry about the one trillionaire with 100,000 kids doing that right now.
So why does this birthright citizenship case even matter? Well, it's about why this administration wants to end it here, now, and who loses power if they succeed. Look, most countries actually don't have birthright citizenship. The UK, France, Germany, Italy, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, even Ireland ended it in 2004. So the issue isn't that other countries don't have it. The issue is why this administration wants to end it here and who gets targeted when they do. The United States is not like any other country. We have a completely different history. Other countries that don't have birthright citizenship didn't fight a whole civil war over human slavery. They didn't pass a constitutional amendment because states were denying citizenship to an entire racial group. We did. The 14th Amendment was wasn't just symbolic, it was a safeguard against racial tyranny. Undoing it doesn't just adjust immigration policy, it actually reopens the exact wound that this amendment was written to close. Next, while this executive order doesn't go backwards, no one born before the executive decision was written will lose citizenship. But going forward, babies born here without a citizen or a permanent resident parent won't get citizenship at birth. And that one shift shapes political power for the next 20, 30, even 40 years. Because once you control who becomes a citizen, you control who eventually becomes a voter. And once you control who becomes a voter, you control who holds power, which means you control what rights survive. This isn't just an immigration rule, this is a demographic engineering strategy. And let's be very clear about who it targets. Yes, Hispanic groups are the largest group affected, but it also hits Black immigrants, Asian immigrants, Middle Eastern and Northern African communities, all the groups whose population growth is currently shaping the political map. Honestly, you don't have to say, we want a wider electorate if the outcome does that for you. And this is where the precedent becomes really, really dangerous. If the Supreme Court rules that a constitutional right we've had for over 150 years can be reinterpreted based on one president's order, then any right can be reinterpreted. That means voting rights, marriage equality, privacy, bodily autonomy, equal protections, and term limits. Everything becomes flexible once the definition of citizen becomes flexible. That is how constitutional democracies slide into authoritarian dictatorships. So no, the danger isn't the policy itself, it's the targeting, it's the intent, and it's the precedent it sets inside a constitution that was rewritten to stop this exact kind of exclusion. Because once a government gets to decide who counts as a citizen, it gets to decide who counts at all. And that's the part they hope you don't notice.
Apparently there's some confusion about birthright citizenship. So much confusion that President Trump has had to chime in. And so I just want to be honest. Birthright citizenship exists because of me. African Americans, descendants of former slaves. That's what it was for. It guaranteed African Americans citizenship in a country that had never acknowledged them as citizens or even more than 3/5 of a person. That's what it was for. It was not designed for an immigrant to hop over the fence and have a baby and hey, that baby gets American citizenship. Wrong. It wasn't designed for rich immigrants to come over here and buy their citizenship by having babies.
The clips you just watched show how or why birthright citizenship has become one of the most controversial issues in America. The idea is connected to the 14th Amendment adopted in 1868 after the Civil War, which established that people born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. Supporters argue that birthright citizenship provides a clear rule, prevents children from being punished for their parents' immigration situations, and reflects American history as a national or a nation built by immigrants. Critics, however, argue that the policy can encourage illegal immigration and believe citizens or citizenship should depend on stronger connections to the country. The debate has intensified as some political leaders have proposed changing how citizenship is granted to children born in the United States of America. However, changing birthright citizenship will likely face major legal challenges because of constitutional protections involved. So let me ask you this question as Americans. Should being born in America automatically guarantee citizenship, or should the rules be changed? What impact do you think a change could have on immigrant families, communities, and American society at large? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll come back with more commentary, continue to watch more clips, and when we are back, we'll share more ideas. This is the Freedom Room. Please watch to the end and subscribe to my channel.
You're born in the U.S. to people who aren't citizens. Are you a citizen just from being born here? Today, the Supreme Court said yes. President Trump had ended automatic citizenship for babies born in the United States when their parents are illegal or tourists without citizenship. The highest court blocked him from doing that. They said the Constitution makes babies born here citizens automatically. So a baby is born in America. The question is, does that baby become an American citizen the second they're born here? The Constitution has one sentence that leads to this whole debate. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. That sentence has two parts. Satisfy both, you're a citizen. Part one, were you born here? It's an easy question. Born in a hospital in Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, you can check box number one. But the second, trickier part, you must also be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. What does that mean? The majority of judges said subject to the jurisdiction means just that the United States has legal power over you. Jurisdiction often means a court or government's power over another person. And if you're on our soil, they already have power over you and you qualify. For example, if a visitor from another country gets a speeding ticket in Illinois, they cannot say, I'm not American, you have no power over me, I don't have to pay the ticket. They do, they can make you pay. American law still applies. That person is under the American jurisdiction. And so any baby born here is, from moment number one, under the jurisdiction of the U.S., and they're a citizen. The Trump administration had said subject to the jurisdiction means more. It means something more like full political allegiance. They said if your parents are citizens with full allegiance, then you can be a citizen because you're born to those with allegiance to the country. So if the parents are citizens of another country or only here temporarily, the baby should not automatically get citizenship, they said, because they aren't under the power of the U.S. or the jurisdiction of the U.S. This reading did not win the day. So under this view, babies born here to undocumented parents or even tourists satisfy both parts, born in the U.S. and subject to its jurisdiction or power, citizens at birth. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now it's time for a special treat. Guys, I have a business idea. Canada kind of sucks, right? Let's start a hot air balloon service where we take pregnant women from Canada to the U.S. in a hot air balloon. Have a doctor on board to deliver the baby on the hot air balloon while on U.S. ground. Then at least their kids can escape the freezing nightmare of the Great White North. This, I think, would earn us top dollar for this service. It may be an exploit in the system that gets banned immediately, but I think it could be worth a try. Let me know your thoughts below.
Two things happened in the last 24 hours or so related to birthright citizenship that are probably related. First, the Trump administration, even though they promised to ask the Supreme Court to reconsider its decision in Barbara v. Trump, failed to do so within the deadline. The deadline passed, and whether they forgot to or just knew they weren't going to win, they did not submit a request to reconsider, which means the decision is final. That happened technically on the 27th, maybe yesterday on the 28th, whatever. Either way, it's gone. In response, a senator from Indiana has published an op-ed in The Hill suggesting that without that option, the president go ahead and declare an invasion at the southern border, which would allow him to step around the 14th Amendment. And the Supreme Court has already ruled on this, and no, he can't. Doesn't mean he won't try, but this has already been decided. An invading army does not include people you don't like crossing the border. It only includes, consider this was written back when, armies wore uniforms. It only includes a group of people who openly and notoriously are crossing the border, holding someone else's flag and saying, this is our sovereign, we are taking over. Those people would not be subject to the sovereignty of the United States, and because they declare that they're, well, whatever, and therefore their children would not get birthright citizenship in that time period. Otherwise, yeah, that's not going to work. But, they're out of options now, so we're going to hit something else. It's nonsense, but whatever. That's where we are.
I'm that type of person that's going to have your back all day long. But when it comes time to hold your feet to the fire, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. And the time has come. So gather around, listen up, let me learn you something. Birthright citizenship, it had to be started because of Black people. Birthright citizenship is tied to slavery. Before the Civil War, Black people, enslaved or free, weren't considered people. They weren't considered citizens. This is Dred Scott. Dred Scott fought for our right to exist as people in this country. Dred Scott and his wife Harriet sued for their freedom. He was a slave, bought and sold like a piece of property. In 1857, the Supreme Court made sure we knew where we stood, saying that no Black person, free or enslaved, could ever be a U.S. citizen. But after the Civil War, Congress passed the 14th Amendment in 1868 to explicitly overturn Dred Scott and make sure that anybody that's born on U.S. soil is automatically a U.S. citizen. This was about making sure that formerly enslaved Black Americans could never have their citizenship stripped from them again. And yet here we are, watching people try to undo all of that work. We know they put a block on it. How long is that going to last? They say it's about immigration. Let's be real, if they can strip it from one group, who's next? Birthright citizenship is a correction, a promise that no one born here could be denied their place. And if we let them rewrite that, we're erasing the very foundation of freedom in this country.
Welcome back to the Freedom Room. Now that you have seen the bigger picture, one thing is clear. The debate over birthright citizenship is about more than immigration. It is about the meaning of belonging and who gets to become American. Supporters see it as a foundation of equality and opportunity, while opponents see it as a policy that needs reforms. Any major change could affect families, future generations, immigration patterns, and the interpretation of constitutional rights. This is why the issue continues to create strong opinions across the United States in 2026. The question for us is, what do you believe should define American citizenship? Birthplace, family background, legal status, or something else? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you found this video informative, please like, you share, you subscribe to the Freedom Room. Support the Freedom Room by subscribing, pressing the notification button so you won't miss on our next video. Stay tuned. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.